Welcome! Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the ethical paradigm shift of Islamic finance. We're going to demystify the profound foundations of this system, and, we're going to see how it goes way beyond just moving money from point A to point B. It turns out it's actually an entire worldview on how we should interact with our wealth, with each other, and really with society as a whole. So, when you hear the term Islamic finance, what instantly comes to mind? For most of us, it's probably just interest-free banking, right? Well, that's definitely the most common assumption. But as we're going to see today, that is literally just scratching the surface. Islamic finance is actually this incredibly robust, deeply ethical framework that's built from the ground up to ensure fairness and prevent harm. Here's our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start by demystifying Islamic finance, then we'll look at the core principles of wealth, move into the three major prohibitions, explore halal, thayyib, and contracts, and wrap up with some modern steps to start. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Demystifying Islamic finance, beyond the misconceptions. It's honestly fascinating how many myths are out there about this. First off, assuming it's only about avoiding interest completely misses the core foundation of fairness. Another big one? Believing that any financial product with an Islamic label slapped on it is automatically perfectly safe. Look, that's a trap. It still requires your real scrutiny. People also tend to think the whole system is overly complicated and inflexible, when in reality, it's highly adaptable to modern issues. And finally, we kind of fail to distinguish between what is technically an acceptable action and what is actual practical wisdom. Moving right along to Section 2, Core Principles of Wealth, the foundation of ethical finance. Now, the most crucial concept I've found here is the actual definition of wealth itself. In Islam, wealth is viewed as a trust. You and I, we aren't the absolute owners of our money. We are just stewards of it. Because of this, every financial decision we make carries heavy responsibility. You're managing resources that you'll ultimately be held accountable for. It's a massive paradigm shift, right? It instantly flips your mindset from just selfish accumulation to responsible, mindful management. Building right on top of that idea of stewardship, we have four main pillars of Islamic finance. First step is justice, or adl, which means a fair benefit for all parties involved, not just one side. Second is balance, or tawazun, striking that perfect balance between worldly and spiritual needs, as well as personal and social needs. Third is honesty, sidq and amana, ensuring clear, completely unambiguous information in all your transactions. And finally, responsibility, masuliya, which is carefully considering the consequences of any financial choice. Understanding these four pillars really trains us to avoid the trap of chasing quick, short-term gains. Which brings us to Section 3, the three major prohibitions, protecting the financial ecosystem. So, to protect this ecosystem, there have to be boundaries. The first major prohibition is riba, which is illegal, predetermined interest. Think about the newly charged interest you see on modern high-interest credit cards or predatory loans. This brilliantly illustrates the core ethics we're talking about today. Riba creates a massive injustice because the lender profits without bearing any real risk at all, while the borrower is heavily burdened. It's totally one-sided. The second prohibition is gharar, which translates to uncertainty. This happens in transactions that completely lack clear information. Think unclear goods quality, invalid info, or non-transparent shady investments. Gharar is strictly forbidden because those hidden risks have a massive potential to cause severe financial harm to one of the transacting parties. Transparency is absolutely key here. And the third big one is maisir, meaning speculation or gambling. This applies heavily to those modern get-rich-quick schemes that rely entirely on luck or have absolutely no clear basis. The philosophy here is that true wealth should be generated from genuine effort and legitimate trade. It shouldn't come from speculative luck that can honestly end up devastating families. All right, Section 4, halal, thayyib, and contracts, the engine of Islamic finance. To really understand how this engine works, we have to look at its original source. There's a quote from Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 168, that commands humanity to consume what is lawful and good on the earth. Notice that very specific dual requirement there. It's not enough for something to just be technically allowed. It actually has to be inherently good as well. Honestly, this was a massive aha moment for me when digging into this, the comparison between halal and thayyib. So halal simply means permissible. It means you aren't violating any rules. But tayyib means the item or action must also be genuinely beneficial and cause absolutely no harm. So for example, an investment might technically be halal, but if you jump into it without careful consideration and it ends up harming your family's future, well, it lacks the quality of tayyib. The system demands both. Okay, so how do we actually guarantee this fairness in everyday business? It's done through very clear Sharia contracts. Every single transaction needs an explicit agreement. For instance, you have murabaha for a trade and purchase with a mutually agreed upon profit margin. Then there's mudarabaha, which is a partnership between the capital provider and the business manager. Musharaka is a joint business partnership with profit sharing. And ijara is your standard lease agreement. This kind of structured transparency means everyone knows exactly what their rights are, which really minimizes future conflicts. Now for our final section, Section 5, Modern Steps to Start, Everyday Relevance and Application.
Some people think these are just archaic rules, but they are incredibly relevant today. They actually offer cutting-edge solutions for our modern wallets. For example, avoiding excessive debt is basically the ultimate defense against falling into a toxic, consumerist lifestyle. Demanding sales transparency directly prevents you from falling victim to fraud. And focusing on investments that are based on real, tangible assets drastically reduces your risk of loss. It's just highly practical advice for surviving today's economy.
The great news is you don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. You can just start with these practical baby steps. Step 1, assess your current sources of income. Step 2, actively avoid transactions that involve usury. Step 3, start gradually transitioning to Sharia-compliant financial services. Step 4, take some time to learn the basics of halal investing. And Step 5, just manage your everyday expenses a bit more carefully. Like a lot of things in life, taking small steps can lead to a massive positive change. Ultimately, this whole paradigm shift is about so much more than just the numbers in your bank balance. Earning a halal income doesn't just provide material benefits. When you manage your legitimate income with wisdom, you are building a much more stable future for yourself. It honestly provides a profound peace of mind and a real grounded sense of purpose. So keeping in mind that your wealth is ultimately a trust, how will you align your wealth with your values today? It's a big question, so take a moment to really reflect on your own financial habits. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one as we keep breaking down the fascinating ideas that shape our world.